Hello YouTube and welcome to X-Plane 11. Now, again this is a little bit different from my usual videos, but any of my friends know I'm a big flight sim fan and I've been playing FSX for years and I've spent a lot of money on custom planes and scenery and things, but I've made the switch to X-Plane and so far I don't have too many regrets. There are quite a few bugs, I have to say that from the outset, but here we are in Invercargill Airport, and the default scenery that came with it, which is what you're seeing here, is not too bad. It's pretty close to the real thing, even for a tiny little airport like this. So today we're going to do a short 45-minute or so flight to Stewart Island. As you can see, the weather's not too bad, so let's just get in and get started. So the first thing we'll do is shut the door. Yeah. Like so. And then we're going to turn on our master bus and avionics, and we're going to turn on our beacon, navigating lights and strobe. So if we have a quick look outside, if I can find the right view, we now have pretty flashing lights. And while we're here we can do a quick control surface test. Test our flaps. And everything seems to be working. So next up we'll get some flight clearance. Now I am using a plugin for the ATC because the default ATC is horrendous. It just... you'll be coming into landing and you'll be past the point of no return, and then it suddenly decides that you need to abort your landing for no reason, and it's just horrible. So we're going to go to Invercargill Tower, file our flight plan, which is NZNV, Invercargill, to NZRC, which is Ryan's Creek on Stewart Island. And because of the weather, we're going to fly at 3,000 today, I think, because there's a little bit of cloud cover. And I didn't mean to do that. Our transition levels will be 2,000, don't worry about this too much. And our flight level will be 30, which is 3,000. And we're going to be doing VFR, which is visual flight rules, so we won't be using the instruments. So let's do that. Request VFR clearance.
Invercargill Tower, good morning. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray request VFR clearance to Ryan's Creek is filed. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray, cleared to Ryan's Creek by runway 22 departure. Initial altitude flight level 30. Squawk 2554.
So we need to set our transponder to 2554 and turn that on. That's so they can keep an eye on us via radar, so they know where we are. And we'll program in our plan into the GPS here, which I might bring this up full screen, makes it a bit easier. So on N, Z, when I was learning to fly, my Cessna did not have such a cool instrument stack as this. N, V. In fact, it didn't even have autopilot. Oh, we don't want NV, we're already at NV. What am I doing? RC. Should try and concentrate. RC. Ryan's Creek. So we're going to enter that, activate it, and we're going to need a heading of 172 to get there. So we will set our autopilot bug. Our compass is out of alignment, so we need to fix that. So that's 24. Ish. I can fix this up a bit more accurately once I get there. So it needs to be 245 actually, is where we actually are facing, so that's about accurate there. And we need to set our autopilot heading bug to 172, so that's going to be around about there-ish. And again, that can't be right. should be south somewhere, so let's just make it... Oh, what am I thinking? It is 172, it is 15, 16, 172 is there-ish. And we'll true all that up once we're in flight using the GPS. So we can now...
Cleared to November Zulu Romeo Charlie via runway 22 departure. Initial altitude flight level 30. Squawk 2554, NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-Ray.
I meant to read that back a bit sooner.
NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-Ray, read back correct. Contact me again when ready for startup. Invercargill ground, NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-Ray request startup. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-Ray, startup approved.
So there are quite a few planes in this, obviously. You have to put your fuel in first. There we go. There are quite a few planes. I'm just flying the Cessna because it's the one I'm most comfortable with for demonstration purposes. I've also paid for an ATR 72 in Air New Zealand colours, which is what they use to fly between Invercargill and Christchurch and some of the other domestic
Startup approved.
trips. And that's pretty good too. But like I say, while I'm demonstrating, I just want to fly a plane that I'm very comfortable with. So let's taxi to the runway.
NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-Ray is ready. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-Ray, taxi to runway 22. Call me when on holding point. Taxi to runway 22. Call back when on holding point. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-Ray.
So we're just going to follow these yellow taxi lines to runway 22. I think flight simming, or any kind of simulation game actually, is one of those things you either get it or you don't. Some people are like, why do you spend so much time in flight sim? And I don't have an answer, I just really enjoy it. So, I mean, there's a few inaccuracies in this scenery. For example, those jets definitely wouldn't be able to land at this airport. It ain't that big. And plus we don't have traffic from Air Berlin, we only have local traffic, Air New Zealand. But the motto of X-Plane seems to be, rather than having accurate scenery and you know, everything being photorealistic, it's approximations, so you can kind of figure out what stuff's supposed to be and where stuff is. I have added on some scenery for New Zealand just to make the mountain peaks and things like that a little bit more accurate. That was free. But apart from that, this is pretty much stock. And you can even see the cars driving on the road past the airport boundary there, which I think is a really nice touch. Also, night flying in this is very, very pretty. Although Brian's Creek Aerodrome, where we're flying to today, doesn't have IFR. In other words, there's no runway lights, so you cannot fly at night in or out of the aerodrome. I have done it. It's extremely risky because you can't see the runway that you're flying down. So I've just put a map on screen so you can see where I am and where I'm heading to, just while I taxi, because this is a little bit boring. So you can see the start point is Invercargill and Stewart Island to the south. For those of you who don't know New Zealand. That was my phone, sorry about that. There's a little bit of wind pushing me off course, but that's all good. I need to turn here anyway. I'm trying to be gentle with the brakes. I've got the brakes configured for my joystick trigger and it's either on or off, so I have to just pulse it so that the plane doesn't take a nosedive. and I'll just center up. It's the old story, I can fly 10 out of 10 every day as soon as I start recording. Cool, we'll put the handbrake on while we request takeoff clearance.
Invercargill Tower, good morning. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray on holding point of runway 22, ready for departure. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray, wind 506 knots, runway 22, cleared for takeoff. Cleared for takeoff runway 22, NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray.
And here we go. This plane does like to pull to the left quite a bit, so I'm just using the rudder to counteract that. And we have liftoff. I'm just adjusting my trim so we don't have such a steep angle of ascent.
700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray, QNH 101 tree. Contact New Zealand Centre on 133.20, but QNH 101 tree. Contact New Zealand Centre on 133.20. Goodbye, NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray.
And before I do that, I might set the... which I just need to trim down quite a bit. And we might as well set the autopilot up so we can get some good shots of the scenery. I believe that's Ototara we're flying over at the moment. So we want autopilot on. We want to hold that heading. And vertical speed we want to keep at about 10 until we hit 3000. So here's some of the wonderful New Zealand scenery. And we'll contact New Zealand Centre while we gain altitude.
New Zealand Centre, good morning. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray passing 1,200 feet, climbing flight level 30. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray, climb to flight level 30.
And how are we doing? Still got 1,000 and a bit feet to go, so let's have a quick look on the outside. So what you can see over here is Bluff Hill, over in the mist. 2,000 feet. And there's not really a lot to see on this flight, unfortunately, to Stewart Island. Just keeping an eye on my airspeed. I might bring our vertical climb down a little bit. Just keep airspeed up. We are flying into the wind a little bit, so you can see the plane rocking around all over the show. Nothing but sea out there. And we're going to tell our autopilot to hold shortly. There. And we're just going to make a little course correction because we're a little bit off course. There we go. So that's Bluff over there. And that long thing there is a TY pier, which you can just see through the mist over here. Thought we were turning then for a second. But no, we're on course. We can keep an eye on our course over here on the GPS. And also using this device here, which shows we are a little bit off course, but that'll correct itself over time.
Climbing to flight level 30.
I keep forgetting to read back.
700 Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray.
So, coming through the mist there, you can see Stewart Island. I can bring up another map in here. And you can see here, so this is the bottom half of the South Island. And that's Stewart Island there. And NZRC is where we're going to be landing, Ryan's Creek Aerodrome. So I've done quite a few long hauls. Well, long for playing in real time anyway. I flew up to Christchurch in the ATR 72 yesterday. And then from there I flew up to New Plymouth. And then from there I took a Cessna up to Ardmore Airport. Because that's where I did my real flight training, was at Ardmore. Aerodrome, not airport. And then flew straight back from Ardmore to Christchurch. And that was about a 4-hour journey. 3.5, 4 hours. And then a quick hour and a half back to Invercargill, so that was quite the thing.
NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray. Turn left heading 161. Turn left heading 161. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray.
Cool. And we're now on heading 161. And we can see our flight path that's been determined by ATC coming up here. So, unfortunately, it looks like we're going to be landing on runway...
NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray. Descend flight level 22.
Flight level 22.
NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray.
Boop. One of the cool things about this plane is, if we look in the glove box, there's a bobblehead. Look at him go! Flight level
5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray.
22.
Runway 22.
I'm actually going to request another runway because the runway they've got us on is a really hard one to land because there's a bit of a hill and you've got to take quite a steep nosedive after the hill. So I'm going to request runway 4.
NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray. Expect runway 04.
And you'll get to see more of the island too.
Expect runway 04. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray. Turn right heading 1. Turn right heading 181. NZ 5700 Zulu Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray.
Cool. So obviously we're having to change our heading for that new runway. And we can throttle back up now that we've finished descending. So here you can see a bit more of the island starting to come into view, and lots of water, and sometimes you'll see boats out here too, which is really nice. Can't see any at the moment. So obviously with any flight simulator you can pour quite a lot of money into them with specialised hardware, plugins, more aircraft, more scenery. I do have a joystick that I've had forever, the old Microsoft Sidewinder. This has been my trusty flight simming joystick since Flight Simulator 2000, I think it was the first one I bought. And ever since then I've been hooked on flight sims, so I'm probably not going to do many more videos on flight sim. I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what it's like. Obviously I picked this trip because it's a nice short one, it's not several hours. And you get to see a little bit of scenery, but obviously doing the longer trips you get to see a lot more scenery, and it's just cool because I've flown quite a few of these trips in real life. Business trips, not me flying, but being in the planes, flying to places like Christchurch, Wellington, Auckland, and it's really cool being able to see the same landmarks in this game and knowing how accurate it is. The really nice thing is that all the modification tools are free for X-Plane and readily available by the developers. So if you want to add in your own airports or landmarks, it's actually pretty easy to do. So I intend on filling out Invercargill a little bit, putting in a few landmarks that local pilots would know, like the Mitre 10 building, which is a giant orange building you can't miss. Our rugby stadium. Queen's Park looks pretty good, but I might flesh that out a little bit as well. So, and that stuff's really easy to do, like I said, so that'll be a project for another day. Normally I wouldn't be flying at full throttle, but I am conscious of people getting bored of seeing the same thing, so I'm flying full speed ahead. A little bobblehead, Austin Meyer. I'm guessing he's either the head of the company that developed X-Plane, or is one of the lead developers or something. I did mean to Google that. So let's have a quick look on our map, see how we're doing. So we're going to be coming in around here, and then turning around in the bay, and then back in that way. Just because it's a much nicer approach. Having said that, there are still trees that you have to be aware of, so we still have to come in a little bit steeply. But it makes for some nice excitement. So this is Stewart Island. This whole island is protected by Department of Conservation, and it's got many pest eradication programs to try and keep it as pest free and keep the native wildlife going, I guess. And one of the really cool things is a lot of areas are surrounded by a giant fence, which, what I've heard, goes down 2 or 3 meters into the ground to keep pests out. So I always kind of think it sounds a little bit like Jurassic Park. I guess it kind of looks a little bit like Jurassic Park too. Although it's summer here in New Zealand, so it's looking a little bit brown. People do live on this island. It has a reasonably small population. Let's have a look. $402 people. That was in 2006. But that sounds about right. From what I've heard, it's still around 400 people. So it's a very small population. There is a couple of little townships, which I don't think we'll be flying over today, unfortunately. I did fly over my house this morning, and my house is in the game, which is kind of cool. Obviously it's not, 100% accurate, it's an approximation, but the game gets its road layouts from OpenStreetMap, so the roads are all accurate, and the townships are reasonably close, which is cool. I haven't flown to Auckland yet to see if the Sky Tower's in. Should probably do that. If it's not, I'm sure there's some add-on scenery that'll have the Auckland cityscape. So, where is the airfield? I can never find it coming in from this angle. I think it's hidden by a hill. Oh no, there it is. That's it there. That's our airfield. You can just see the runway there. So you can see it's absolutely tiny. With an apron up here, which is where we'll park. And how are we doing for our course? Actually need to take this a little bit wider, so we'll just pull around. ATC might get a bit upset about this and tell me to go back to my original course, but that's just how the game works. So in real life, I wouldn't be using ATC at all because there is no tower in Stewart Island, it's just Unicom. So you'd just be talking to other pilots, letting them know your position and intentions. And what I might do now is turn off the autopilot and fly manually.
700 Kilo Mike Charlie X-ray, turn left heading 067. Cleared for visual approach runway 04. Contact tower on 130.19 when established. 5.
So I've been given clearance to land and told to contact tower. But like I said, there is no tower at Stewart Island, so I've just turned the plug-in off because it just doesn't work. And it'll sit there telling me to contact tower forever. So just bringing our altitude down a little bit, reduce our speed, and we're going to make our turn onto final shortly. So I'm just referencing that GPS plot down on the bottom right hand corner. And hopefully we'll have a nice smooth landing. Adjust my pitch a little bit. So pitch on an aircraft determines its nose position relative to the ground and the sky, basically. So if you pitch up, you're heading upwards, and if you pitch down, you're heading down. And there's a little wheel. I have a control on my joystick, but this little wheel here controls that. And basically, once you get your pitch adjusted just right, you kind of don't need autopilot because the plane will just keep flying on a straight line. So this turn should bring the airfield into sight. Hopefully. Somewhere, there it is. Yeah, go away. Actually, I might get rid of the bobblehead. It's a bit distracting. It's a little bit foggy today. The weather is based on real world weather. You can turn that on and off. You can control it manually. But I've just got it set on real world just because it's more fun. Trees. Lots of trees. And that's not me waving the nose around, that's the wind. It's a little bit of chop, it's not too bad. And how are we doing for that runway heading? Where is the damn runway? Oh, there it is. Get that mouse cursor out of the way. pretty much the most manual aerodrome you can find. There are no lights, no Vor beacons, just you and your visual approach. Might be a little bit of a bumpy landing today, folks, because of this wind, but we'll try and make it as smooth as we can. The worst thing is the trees. As you can see, I'm coming in a little bit steep, but I don't really have a lot of choice. Flaps. Get that pitch under control. That's nice. See, ordinarily I'd like to be a lot lower than this, coming into a landed airfield like this. But because of the trees, I can't. Wow, that wind is really picking up. Here we go. Like I say, a very steep landing. And flare up. A little bit bumpy, but not too bad. I'm happy with that. Just easing the brakes. And we're going to park over here next to that. So here we are at Ryan's Creek Airport, Stewart Island. Shall park here, I think. Handbrake on. And fuel off. Lights off, avionics off, master off, magnetos off, and open the door. Why not open them both? So another really cool thing about this is you can then save that as a replay and then view it back again. So you can see your landing from the airport's point of view, like if I can find it. Here we go. So this was me coming into land. And there's a bug, because I had my doors open when I started the replay, they're still open, even though they were closed during the flight, but that was kind of cool. So that's X-Plane. Like I said, I'm probably not going to do any more videos on this, because it's just going to bore people to tears, but a lot of people out there, like me, weren't too sure about switching from Flight Sim X FSX to X-Plane, and I just want to say I don't regret making the change. So even though I have paid for a lot of scenery and planes in FSX, so if you're thinking about it, definitely give it a go. Have a look at some other YouTube videos, and maybe you'll make the switch too. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.